Alright, welcome back to another monthly recap. In today's video, I'm going to be going over every single album that I listened to in the month of April. Let's get into it. So first up, we got Inner Visions by Stevie Wonder. This has some of Stevie's most unique and singular tracks, like the meditative and swirling guitars on Visions, and the racial inequality depicted in the writing on Living for the City. However, the entire album just kind of comes short of being a cohesive and well-paced experience. Then I listened to The Changing of the Trees by Dom McLennan. I think Dom would really benefit from some more interesting production. The production here is basically just lo-fi beats to study to. The stale drum beats and obvious sample choices make Dom's words feel less important than they actually are. Dom was always one of the most gifted rappers and writers in Brockhampton, and that skill carries over here. His razor-sharp flows and imagery-heavy and vulnerable writing is great, but again, that production just makes the whole project fall flat. Then I listened to Pinball by Mike. Mike's lack of vocal precision and control and just very monotone voice don't do much for me. Production does have some grit and sass to it, and I do appreciate how brief each track is, but the performances really hold this thing back. Then I listened to Something in the Room She Moves by Julia Holter. This record requires a lot of patience due to its slow pacing, but that slow pacing is really what makes it special. The meandering melodies and unpredictable nature of these songs creates an otherworldly and often unsettling atmosphere. It takes a couple tracks for this to grab my attention, but from Me You until the end, each song does a great job of adding to the unnerving feel that track establishes. Then I listened to Genre Sad Boy by MGK and Trippie Redd. This album title and cover lays out exactly what this album is gonna be. An insincere display of emotion that is just simply shooting for an aesthetic. With its underwhelming production, awful lyrics, and overall lack of passion, this is easily the worst album of the year so far. Then I listened to Tyla's Self-Titled. Tyla's meteoric rise to stardom has been kind of confusing to me, and that's just further cemented with this kind of lackluster album. The melodies are extremely repetitive, Tyla's voice really has no discernible quality to it, and the production is one-dimensional. There's some moments where I can float along, and there's nothing that's offensively bad, but it's just kind of bland. Then I listened to Tank by Idols. Dude, the production on this is just so good. The guitar tones are explosive, yet really textured, and there's some really adventurous percussion work as well. A lot of the meat of this record is punchy and visceral, but I can't help but be underwhelmed at how it starts and finishes. Then I listened to We Don't Trust You by Future and Metro Boomin. I came in fully expecting to be underwhelmed by this thing, and while I do think it's about 5 songs too long, there's a good amount of bangers here. Metro usually carries with his moody and cinematic production, but Future does enough. Then I listened to Cowboy Carter by Beyonce. This album is a lot, obviously because of its length, but also because of its massive scope. I was a bit skeptical about this album after hearing Texas Hold'em, which I thought was a bit of an underwhelming single, but that single is not representative of the rest of this album. This tracklist is just consistently surprising me at every turn, with its wild genre fusions, vocal performances that exude passion, and a genuine understanding of what makes country music great. Beyonce really created something special here. Not every risk taken lands, but it's just so exciting to have a figure of Beyonce's popularity making some seriously ambitious and fresh music in the pop sphere. Then I listened to The Great Bailout by More Mother. This is a spoken word and free jazz record that definitely drained me emotionally. On the first listen, the harsh and unsettling soundscape is what grabbed my ear, but on more listens, the messaging really came through. It's an urgent and ugly criticism of European colonialism driven by deep sorrow and anger. The free-flowing backing vocals, mouth sounds, and percussion make this feel like it's improvisational and purely based on visceral feeling, with a lot of the record feeling like a direct and uncompromising portrayal of this artist's mind. Then I listened to Only God Was Above Us by Vampire Weekend. Vampire Weekend has taken their sound to another level on this one. They do a great job of combining their classic songwriting with new and strange production, piercing guitar tones, and a surprising amount of trip-hop drum beats. I do wish the vocals were a bit more adventurous to match the wild instrumentation, but all in all, this is a great display of artistic evolution while simultaneously sticking to what makes them great. Then I listened to Older by Lizzie McAlpine. Guys, we don't all have to sound like Phoebe Bridgers Bridgers Dewey. I mean, there's taking inspiration, which is fine, and then there's just being a straight ripoff, which is exactly what this album is. The vocals are literally just a straight up copy and paste of Phoebe Bridgers, and even the instrumentals are scarily similar as well. Just listen to Like It Tends to Do and tell me it doesn't sound exactly like Garden Song. In a vacuum, is this album fine? Sure, but hey guys, we don't live in a vacuum, in case you didn't know. Then I listened to As Grand As by Grand Mahogany. With its animated vocals and bubbly guitars, this is just some extremely dense and downright nasty funk. I do wish that some of the vocal performances were mixed a bit louder, as some tracks feel like they get lost in their own chaos and don't have a strong vocal presence to build around. That's the exception to the rule though, and this album's explosive personality and vibrance do enough to make up for that minor issue. Then I listened to Venus by Zara Larsson. This album's biggest issue is just how emotionless and dull it feels. There's really no urgency to anything here, and even the occasional attempts at emotional songwriting just come across as forced and corny. Then I listened to Triple Digits by Richie. As we've come to expect from Injury Reserve, and in this case an Injury Reserve adjacent project, the production is going to be extremely strange and hard to pin down. There's sincerity and emotional weight to this DIY production, and Richie's performances are consistently colorful, ending with the goofy auto-tune on 5 on the feels like a weird choice, but for the most part, this is pretty solid. Then I listened to Diamond Life by Sade. I really enjoyed Love Deluxe, but I think this is the side of Sade that just connects with me more. It's a lot more classic soul inspired than Love Deluxe, and while it loses out on the otherworldly atmosphere a bit, the songs are just a lot more fun to listen to. Sade's vocals are of course still fantastically smooth here, but the extra punch and groove of the instrumentals puts this one over the top for me. Then I listened to Stick Season by Noah Kahn. When it comes to folk pop, you can definitely do a lot worse. I was expecting really overcompressed and touched up production, but there's actually a nice rustic quality to a lot of these tracks. The vocals are where it gets a bit rough for me. The overuse of fluttering vibrato is tiring and becomes really egregious when he goes into his falsetto, and except for a few moments, the writing is also pretty forgettable. Overall though, not terrible, just kind of bland. Then I listened to Modern Vampires of the City by Vampire Weekend. This has some of the most creative genre fusions and production choices out of their first 3 albums, but man, there's some really annoying and unlistenable tracks here. For some reason, they decided to do this vocal pitch shifting that is, dare I say, AJR reminiscent, and it's just really shocking. I mean, aside from 3 really annoying tracks, it's a pretty solid record, but those 3 tracks do bring it down quite a bit. Then I listened to Emails I Can't Send by Sabrina Carpenter. It's really disappointing how homogenized pop is right now. This really has no discernible identity, and I get little to no sense of who Sabrina is. This just feels like a bunch of executives saying, let's do a Billie Eilish song, then an Olivia Rodrigo song, then some Ariana Grande pop trap, then repeat. And it's a shame because Sabrina occasionally showcases her sense of humor in her writing and her kind of rambly vocal delivery. If these characteristics were leaned into, this record would feel a lot more personal, but instead we just get some copy and paste slop. Then I listened to Dynamite by Z Loopers. While Z Loopers' vocal timbre is undeniably unique, his performances here often get too messy and off the rails. He doesn't even need to dial back the eccentricity of his voice, but instead just tighten his flows and have a more coherent structure to his verses. Then I listened to Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides by Sophie. Sophie's debut record is an absolute masterclass in production and world building. With its guttural textures, visceral mixes, and mind-melting vocal manipulation, the attention to detail and commitment to this sonic world is inspiring. The track listing could use some work, as some of the tonal shifts between tracks feels disjointed, but that's really just a minor nitpick. This is one of those albums that feels technically impressive, but really packs an emotional punch on a subconscious level. Then I listened to Black Metal 2 by Dean Blunt. Dean Blunt's commitment to creating a dreamy, whimsical, yet slightly unsettling atmosphere is really where this album succeeds, but I can't help but feel underwhelmed by the vocals. They certainly fit the tone of the album, but just often feel flavorless and dull. Then I listened to Heyday by Feeble Little Horse. This is a lot more distorted and noisy than their most recent album, but still packs a punch while remaining hooky. Then I listened to Boat Songs by MJ Lenderman. This album is at its best when it's more clean and direct. The moments where it becomes heavily layered and abstracted are when it loses me, as there's often a lack of a memorable element, whether it be a guitar line or a vocal, to really hold the track together. The idea of the genre fusions here is fun, but the execution is somewhat lackluster. Then I listened to Transformer by Lou Reed. Lou Reed's humor in his writing and personality on the mic makes this stand out from the standard rock of the 70s, and it's just an added bonus that the instrumentation is fantastic as well. It's no surprise that David Bowie is listed as a producer for this album, as it often feels adventurous in a manner similar to his best work. Then I listened to Bandana by Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. This is seriously one of the best albums I've listened to this year. Freddie's versatility as a rapper is on full display here, with his performances ranging from smooth and melodic to quick and cutting, all while delivering an invigorating sense of urgency. The writing is extremely mature and offers a refreshingly self-aware perspective, with Freddie highlighting the difficulties of his lifestyle and all the nuances of how both his actions affect people around him and how Americans' governmental actions affect minorities. Madlib perfectly understands restraint, with his production allowing the vocalist to steal the show and simultaneously reinforcing the emotional themes of each track. Just absolutely blown away by this album. Then I listened to Silence is Loud by Nia Archives. Nia's waned vocal delivery and unpredictable vocal melodies help to create songs that feel pained but also playful. And the best parts are when the layered guitars intertwine nicely with the bustling drums on this album. My main issue with this record is just its lack of rhythmic diversity. Pretty much every track has almost the exact same drum beat, and the track list quickly becomes repetitive and predictable because of this. Alright, and there you go. That is every single album that I listened to in the month of April. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.